Hi, my students. I hope you were successful with the staff figuring out what lines and what spaces represent what pitches, what notes, how high or how low. Well, now let's take a look at the shape of the notes, not the location up or down, but what do they look like? And that's going to tell you how long they last. So down here, I have a whole row of different rhythmic values. That just means how long they're going to last. And so this guy here is called a whole note, and makes sense. He's going to take up the whole space in his measure. Measure is just it is a bunch of beats that are grouped together. And so then we have a half note, and it makes sense that a half note is going to be half of a whole note. So if you cut a whole note in half, you get a half note, and he lasts half as long as the whole note. Well, let's keep doing our fractions here. If we cut our half note in half, we get a quarter note, which just is our quarter note. And if we go back and look at this little picture, this shows us how if you cut the whole note in half, we get our two half notes. And then we cut our half note in half, we get a quarter note. And wow, we're getting kind of a complex family tree here. And so our whole note got cut into two half notes. Each half note gets cut into two quarter notes. And these guys can all be mixed and matched. I can put two quarter notes and one half note. Or one half note and two quarter notes. Or I can put a quarter note and a half note and then another quarter note. But they can get chopped up even more. You can cut a quarter note in half, and half of a quarter note is going to be our eighth note. And we know it's an eighth note because we're adding a flag to it. That means that fancy flag sticking off it. And if you put two of them together, the flag will be straight across instead of hanging down. And we're not going to worry about our 16th note at the moment. But we can also see this picture here where if we have two eighth notes, they equal one quarter note. So let's visit our activities. And so you just came from this page right here where it said, let me show you how to do the next activity. And you clicked on the video to watch this video. So now you're going to know. You're going to click the next button, and it's going to take you to rhythm notation. And this is not asking you guys remember, this is on the B line. That's the note B. But it actually wants to know what rhythm. And so this guy's taking up the whole measure. He is a whole note. And it's going to be simple because this first set of questions is only asking for whole notes or half notes. Now, we'll meet these rests in a second. We'll talk about that. Okay, so yay, whole note, we were correct. What type of note is this? Okay. Music has sound, but it also has silence, okay? And so there can be, we call those silence in music, we call that a rest. And so we need to know how long our rest lasts. And just like we have whole notes and half notes and quarter notes and eighth notes, we can have a whole rest, and a half rest, and a quarter rest, and an eighth rest, and so on. So let's take a look at these shapes. This guy looks like a hole in the ground, and that's easy to remember because the whole rest is basically a hole. So he is a whole rest. Ta-da! Okay, that's the correct answer. All right, now, you guys remember when you add a stem, because we have the note head. You're used to seeing a note head with just all by himself, just a circle. That would be a whole note. But if you add a stem to it, now we've got ourselves a half note. So let's click the half note and submit. Yay. And let's review. Who's that? That's a rest. He looks like he's down in a hole. So that is a whole rest. All right. Next, whole rest. Type of note is this. That is a circle all by himself. He is a whole note. He's not a rest. type of note is this. Got another whole note. And we added the stem to it, so we know that is a half note. All right, now, he kind of looks like the whole breast, right? Where he's hanging down in a hole. But if you look carefully, he's actually sitting on top, and he looks like he's a hat sitting on a line. He doesn't actually hang. He wasn't. A whole rest is parked on the D line and then hangs down into the space like he's a hole. That's a whole rest. But this right here, you don't call it a hat rest. He's a half rest. Isn't it? Half rest. Everybody knows this. That's a half note. One more question. Is he a whole or a half? He's hanging down in a hole, and so he is a whole rest. Okay. So now, type of note is this. I almost said it's a G. It is a G, but it wants to know if it's a whole note or a half note or a quarter note, or if it's one of those rests. This is a quarter note because he is a half note, but it's filled in. Quarter note. That is a half rest. He looks like a hat. Half rest. He is a quarter note. It's filled in. Oh, I was going too fast and I clicked on quarter rest. Just so you know, that is what a quarter rest looks like. We'll meet those. Ever notice this? That's a whole note. Half note. That is hanging down into a hole, so that is a whole rest. That is a rest sitting on a line. He looks like a hat, so he's a half rest. He's a quarter rest. He's a quarter note. And last one, a whole note. Okay. Now, here's where it's actually interesting, where we've talked kind of some theory about it. What are whole notes, half notes, quarter notes? But this tells you actually how long it lasts. And so this box here, he is 1, and he's going to live for 2 beats because he is a half note. And so instead of clicking 2, that would be like, well, right here it's going to be 1, 2, because we're going to hear click, click. Right here, it's going to be living through. He's going to last for 2 beats, and so we're not going to have a brand new sound on beat 2. It's still going to be the old sound of this guy lasting a long time. So right here, this is going to be 1, 2. I like to whisper it. This is 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, that might look very crazy and confusing, and what does that even mean? Let's actually listen to it, and this might make more sense to you after we listen to it. Submitting, yay, we got it right. Now, I'm going to click this listen button, and you're going to hear click, click. It's going to give us 2 beats, and then it's going to play this for us. Here comes the beats. 1, 2, 1, 2. Didn't give us a metronome, but that's okay. Let's listen to it again. This is going to last for 2 beats. 1 beat. This is the second beat. 1 beat, 2 beat, 1, 2, 1, 2. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's try a new one. Okay, now, this is going to be a rest. It is quiet. It doesn't make any sound right here. So we're going to put parentheses, and this is the second beat, so we're going to put the 2. And since he's a note, we'll put the 2, not the parentheses 2. All right, this is a half note, so he lives for 2 beats. This is beat 1, this is beat 2, but he's not a new beat 2. He is living through this. And this is 1, 2. Submit. All right, let's listen to this, where it goes. 2, 1, 2. It's hard for me to say it because I don't know when it's starting. But on that rest, there's no sound. And then we hear this pitch and then this. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Let me show you one more. We'll stop. So this is a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Click on the 4. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is. Okay? You guys are doing great. Here it is. Let's listen to these. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's actually more interesting to listen to than just a straight across. So let's listen to that melody again and count that rhythm. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I'm going to stop here and let you guys do your rhythm counting and your rhythm notation.